Hey all, I'm sharing with you a photograph that I took on Mission Beach in San Diego in late October 2009. Now, this was about maybe a year into what's now known as the Great Recession, which I think was the period of about October 2008 till maybe the beginning of 2011. I'm not totally sure, and I know that there is some debate over, when the Great Recession was. When did it begin? When did it end? Nevertheless, I recall taking this photo and feeling, I think, what you'd say a sense of both gratitude and guilt when I took it. And I feel comfortable sharing the photo because nobody is identifiable in it. Even this little girl over here, she's not identifiable in the sense that she's blurred out. But I felt guilt and gratitude because there I was in San Diego on a vacation some 3,000 miles away from home. I knew of some people who were certainly much better off than I was during the Great Recession. And I was in my late 20s, and I certainly wasn't making a great deal of money back then. Not that I am now, but they were really badly affected by the recession. And I think the Great Recession defined for a lot of people in the millennial generation, which is not my generation, but right after it, it defined their worldview. To see the bottom fall out so quickly and so dramatically, particularly for the middle class. But there I was on this, I think it was a Sunday evening in late October of 2009 on this beach, and I'm on vacation and I'm watching this family scrounge through a dumpster. I don't think for food. I think what they were looking for was something to scrap, perhaps, to purchase shelter or food. And just seeing the divide between the wealth in San Diego and these people on this signature beach just trying to get by. And now where we are in late 2022, there is some debate over whether or not we are in a recession or headed into a recession. And unfortunately, like so many things, this question sort of boils down to where you stand on the partisan spectrum. So maybe if you're a Republican, you see the recession coming and it's all President Biden's fault. And if you're a Democrat, President Biden is staving off a recession. And my hope, even though I'm not a Joe Biden fan, is that the latter is true. And maybe this is self-interested, but as I said earlier, I managed to get by in the Great Recession. Like I was able to take a few vacations even during it, even though I wasn't of high income at all. But I feel like any kind of downturn right now could certainly affect me and would certainly affect my children. And when you think about what parents will do and what they should do for their children, you can understand why somebody would be foraging through a dumpster, even in front of their child. As humiliating as that might be, to those of us who haven't experienced it, it's an abstraction. We're not there yet. We haven't been there yet. We haven't experienced this. There are a lot of people that you see, depending, it doesn't matter how the economy is doing. The economy could be humming, along, and they're still going to be on the street asking for handouts, begging, I guess you'd call it. Panhandling is what we call it now, and that could be because they carry crosses of a mental illness or addiction, or they've just fallen on natural hard times that happen, that occur in life. And it's easy to forget that there's a struggle like every day for these people to make it through and to feed themselves, and in some senses to feed their habit. And it's probably also easy to mistake those who are having a hard time based on the downturn in the economy and those who are just having a hard time. But in the end, it may not really matter for us as human beings. We owe one another a great debt just simply by being alive. And it's something that we all struggle with. I think most of us struggle with that ability to part ways with things to seek the good of another person. And I'm reminded of this sculpture I've seen in Midtown Manhattan, and I've seen it in Essex, Connecticut, and it's taken or inspired by a passage in the Gospel of Matthew. And that, of course, is Jesus' exhortation to look out for those who are naked, to clothe them, those who are in confinement, to visit them, those who are in need, to provide for them. And as Jesus said, "Amen, I say to you, as long as you did it to one of these, the least of my brethren, you did it to me." It's hard to imagine a circumstance where we do have a recession, maybe in the coming years, that won't be as catastrophic, if not more catastrophic, than the Great Recession was. And perhaps something that will define yet another generation, this maybe being Generation Z, I'm not sure. But it's going to be tough, I think, whether or not this recession, if it does happen, is caused by government spending, COVID, supply chains, or perhaps by design. It doesn't really matter for those who are trying to scrape by, to provide for themselves, particularly those who are trying to provide for their children. What we do to one another is going to be very crucial. How we face this possible, very likely coming recession is going to be very important, because there's a real possibility that those of us in the middle class who weren't touched by the Great Recession may end up being quite cleaned out by what could be coming next. And I'm not an economic expert, but I think that's something that's held by a lot of people, that this could be a very serious recession with regards to those who maybe were planning for their retirements or their children's education. And of course, it comes at a very perilous time in our country's history. So just thank you for letting me share with you this photo and some of the other photos and my thoughts. And God bless you. Look out for one another. And if you can, say a prayer for those who are going through really tough times right now and who will be. Thank you.